Hey, this is Helen Paradise from SoCal, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Yay! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, live fire fun and survival reserve. If you want to jump in this evening...
Let's go!
We'll do it live.
All right. Let's just relax. If you want to jump in this evening, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter coming up in about 13 minutes from now. It is the fourth Tuesday of a month, and as we get ready to close out yet another one here in 2020, we are joined by the barbecue icon himself, TV show host, cooking class instructor, prolific cookbook author, Stephen Raichlen. Will be in. Of course, I think we've missed him on 2 separate months, so catching up with him. What are we going to be talking about this evening? We'll talk a little bit of business with Stephen as he has some new things to talk about as it relates to the Planted Barbecue line of products, some new things, some readjusting branding things, and then we will go head deep into breaking down something that I love to break down. What is that? Lists. I love lists. I love lists that concern trends and predictions in 2022, the beginning of the year, as we pretty much do every year for the last 10 years with Stephen Raichlen. Beginning of the year, what does Stephen think trends are going to be in the industry? Fads. Things that are going to be catching on. Popular concepts. What's going to be happening over the landscape of 12 months? And now, in this particular time of the year, as we're just getting ready to crest into Q4 of 2022, we'll look back at the top 5 predictions and the top 5 trends and break those down and see if Stephen was accurate and see where he might have missed the boat or see where some of the things are still a starting block and they have 3 months and a week to get out there and really make their mark before they get cast into 2023. So looking forward to catching up with Stephen and talking about all of that. And then we'll move to the 35 past the first hour segment where we will also find a visit from our fourth Tuesday of the month regular guest, a bristly barbecue journalist and Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer, Derrick Riches. Indeedy. Last month we talked fairly extensively about if full-size electric grills are going to be a thing next year. We know it's a thing as far as emerging products in the retail space, in the market. But are they going to be a thing where all of a sudden now you're weighing propane, now you're weighing charcoal, now you're weighing full-size electric? Certainly you might be thinking about that a little bit more if you are in living confines that dictate no open flame. But we believe that full-size electric cookers are going to be a thing next year, and we'll see how that pans out. But the new thing this coming, or as we're trailing here in the end of 2022, is the emergence of a hybrid cooker. And I'll just tease it right there and leave it for you to gnaw on. What kind of a combo or hybrid cooker do you think I'm talking about? We've seen them before, but maybe never like this. So looking forward to digging it in and talking about it with Derrick 35 past the first hour. That'll wrap the first, and then we'll go to the second hour. It is the fourth Tuesday of a month, as I've said 3 different times already, and that means the Embedded Correspondents rejoin us. Tonight is a very exciting second hour. Why? Because it's the end of September. What does that mean? Well, it means in a week we'll have October, Q4, ready to rock and roll. Last 3 months. Let's see if we can turn the lights out on this thing. All true. Not why the end of September is my favorite part of the year. It is my favorite part of the year because this is the show where Doug and John and Rusty and myself all accumulate together on this here show and bring you a new class of the Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame. That will happen in the second hour this evening. We will come up with a brand new Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame. I have my 5 nominations. Doug has his 5. John Solberg has his 5. And Rusty Monson from the great city of Utah has his 5 names. We will go around the group. We will see if any of our names all match up. So we have what we call an auto qualifier. And then if we don't, or we only have 1 or 2 auto qualifiers, remember 5 names go in each and every year. So we will then go into the arguments phase and eventually come up with a 5-class best guest or guest Hall of Fame members here in 2022. So we're looking forward to that. A lot of you already clamoring about it on social media. So very excited to get to that in the second hour, but a lot of show in the first hour as well, so stay tuned. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of the streaming video platforms. You can go to Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. You can also head on over to YouTube /RD Rempe, where there's a robust chat going along with that video as well, and we also send a hearty hello and good evening to the folks using our audio streaming platform partner, Clubhouse, as well. So if you'd rather hear us and not see us, Clubhouse is the way to do that. So let's start here this evening. I'm sure everybody's seen it. It has been spreading around like wildfire on social media, especially for folks like us. We look at it and go, how could one person or 2 people or a group of people be so ridiculous, careless, dare I say stupid, to the point where the FDA in recent days has put out a warning to not...
Andrew, you are not the father.
Andrew, do not cook your chicken in NyQuil.
Get that big stuff out of here.
There's a lot of things I have heard get warnings slapped on. Don't eat Tide Pods. Don't smoke cigarettes. Whatever. I honestly didn't see NyQuil chicken coming down the line of an authoritarian governing body come out and say, don't do this. That's not good. You can die from that. Why? Because you're cooking chicken and medicine? When I first saw it, I thought it was a way that people thought they were disinfecting the chicken or getting the nasties away from them. Some people wash their chicken in bleach before they cook it. That's really a thing. People do that. And I thought the NyQuil was just an added layer of getting the gross out, but I was shocked and appalled and dismayed that the FDA had to come out and say, don't cook your chicken in NyQuil because as you cook it down, the NyQuil concentrates. The alcohol evaporates, the water evaporates, and now you're just left with concentrated medicine. Oh, by the way, that could really F you up. So if you were thought about giving it a try, don't do that. Stay away from the NyQuil chicken. Just watch TikTok and see all those dopes eat it, and then live vicariously through their stupidity. So don't do it. Terrence in Missouri writing in, Greg, big fan of the show for a long time. Man, I wasn't sure how that first hour was going to go last week because I am a lover of your interviews, but Greg Rempe for an hour was right up my alley. Maybe you should work in a first hour takeover a little bit more frequently. Love the show. Regards, Terrence. Thank you, Terrence. Jeff in Idaho writing in, Greg, loved the segment with Daniel Vaughn this past Tuesday night. I thought it was particularly interesting when he commented on the artificially low cost of brisket in years past. I was shocked. Way to pull the best info out of your guests. That was an eye-opener for me. Regards, Jeff. If you missed that, Daniel Vaughn said for years he thinks the price of brisket has been artificially low because they've been hiding it in other forms of protein. Going low, making more money on the sides, the ribs, the pulled pork, the turkey, you name it. And then accepting a lower cost per pound on the brisket because they were making it up elsewhere. You can't do that now. Everybody wants the brisket. And everything else costs way more, as we know. Before we get into our chat with Stephen Raichlen, I'll talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. 13 perfectly balanced seasonings and rubs that are winning in the backyard and have been winning on the competition trail for decades. They also own Granny's Barbecue Sauce, so if you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everybody, Granny's Barbecue Sauce is the one you're going to want to try. And aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, they're selling cookers. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers is the exclusive Mac dealer and even offering special packages. If you're not a fan of pellet smokers or you don't know what cooker you should get, why not try and give them a call, 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or you can just shop their website at bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA Smokers.com. We're back with Stephen Raichlen right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or see what other products they have that will add a little smokiness to whatever it is you have in your pellet-driven cookers. Centralites, it is the third Tuesday of the month, and that means it's time to do a segment with an icon. No, it's not the third Tuesday. It's the fourth Tuesday of the month, that's right. And here to do a segment on the show, a TV show host, the creator and host of the very popular Project Fire on PBS, a James Beard Award-winning author, some of the most important books on the topic of barbecue and grilling ever. We race to the hotline and welcome back our friend, Stephen Raichlen. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fabulous. Appreciate you making time for the show. As always, I didn't think we were going to start here, Stephen, but the story ahead of you is calling me to ask. You've been around. You've seen it all. Does my story of the FDA having to come to the defense and warning of the national public to say, hey, don't cook your chicken in NyQuil. It can really hurt you and potentially kill you. Did you see this one coming at all?
I did not see that one coming. It is proof of the insanity of social media. And, you know, it reminds me of that movie, Don't Look Up. Did you see that movie, Don't Look
I
Up?
didn't.
Oh my God. Well, when you get off the show tonight, I'm sure it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Look at it. It is just, it's a celebration of modern day stupidity.
Well, I think we're right in the midst of modern day stupidity with folks thinking that NyQuil is. I had done a big thing socially just as a joke about mayo as a binder on brisket. I feigned that I was the one that created this whole thing, and there were some other folks that are big fans of the show that jumped on board and actually executed mayo bindered brisket. By the way, results were smackingly positive. Lots of great bark.
Sure.
I mean, it is an oil, all this other stuff. Nevertheless, but I am here to tell you, I am not on the NyQuil chicken bandwagon, not as a binder, not on anything. I don't want any part of that, so we'll just leave that off to the side and continue on here.
Of course, if we were real food scientists, we would try it just to see what happens. but
I mean, I don't like that stuff when I have a cold.
Max the meat guy. If Max the meat guy is watching it, that's something he would do. Or maybe they would try it.
Do you have a relationship with Max the meat guy?
I admire his work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we should start hashtagging him and at tweeting him to see if that's something that he would want to take up. I mean, again, if the FDA is coming out and saying don't try it, and I am definitely not a meat scientist, then, you know, I'm not going to go ahead and give it a go. We'll leave it up to Max and maybe that Guga fella. I mean, you're close personal friends with Guga. He's always into curing steak and all sorts of nonsense. So we'll leave it to those two guys to figure out. Piece of business before we talk about clam bakes and Steven's predictions of 2022 and some other things. You have that successful line of barbecue products called Planted Barbecue. Also, that's a portion of the mail order business that we have been talking about here since last year. So a little update on Planted Barbecue and where we're at with that.
Well, really exciting. We are about to introduce wings. We have two kinds of wings, barbecue wings and sriracha wings with a nice kick. Brisket is selling like proverbial hotcakes. The ribs are great. We introduced two new burgers, both made with 28-day aged beef raised in Wyoming. So super natural product. Our sausages, the double smoked brisket sausage, which is ground brisket binder, and then it has chopped burnt ends folded into the meat. So that's pretty sweet. Anyway, it's exciting. And, you know, for me, I've always been, I mean, my whole adult life, I've been in the editorial business, the book writing business, the TV making business. So for me to actually be in business, making stuff and selling stuff is, you know, it's a real education. It's a new venture and very exciting.
I think for the last 7 weeks, we've talked on this show, perhaps ad nauseum to some of my fans, about the cost of brisket finished in barbecue restaurants. I'm not going to go back down here through that vine again, but as somebody who needs to procure briskets in order to cook them the way you want and then ultimately sell them online, are you finding it hard to get them, and is pricing a little bit more than anticipated?
Oh man, it's murder. I mean, first of all, specking briskets. I mean, our briskets are coming in as small as 8 pounds, as large as 19 pounds, and the costs are crazy. The supply is crazy. You know, this is all supply chain stuff as a result of COVID. I do hope that it'll settle down, but you know, it's been a real challenge for us at Planet Barbecue.
Stephen Raichlen joining us here on the show. The Barbecue Bible is, of course, that famed book that everybody has a copy of. BarbecueBible.com is a website, of course.
Hey, by the way, I just want to tell you, next year will be the 25th anniversary of Barbecue Bible.
Really?
Both sort of, yeah, amazing and a little appalling. And this gray that you get here, you know, I didn't have that when I wrote the Barbecue Bible. But if anybody, you know, is interested, we have just started a new club called the Barbecue Bible 500 Club. This was a couple in Spain that spent their COVID lockdown cooking every recipe in the Barbecue Bible. And so if you go to barbecuebible.com, click on 500 Club. As you cook your way through it, there are various prizes after you do 100 recipes, 200 recipes. And it's a very congenial Facebook group, a lot of good vibes, people from all over the world doing it. So at any rate, might be fun for some of your listeners.
Yeah, especially those that like to cook through the Barbecue Bible, no doubt about it. This is the time of the year where the term clam bake gets thrown around up here in Northeast Ohio, or as we call it, the North Coast, which a lot of people don't understand. Clam bakes by the dozens, the weekend hits, and you got restaurants throwing clam bakes. You got people in neighborhoods throwing clam bakes. What does a Stephen Raichlen clam bake look like? And if you're doing clams on the grill, what's the best way to execute?
Well, I'm glad you said grill, because the traditional clam bake is cooked underground in a stone pit that you build a fire in, then you fill it with seaweed, then you put all the ingredients of the clam bake, you cover it with a tarp. So it's really a process kind of more of steaming underground rather than actually grilling. But as you can imagine, when the Raichlen family does a clam bake, there's a grill. On the beach, sometimes we take a Weber kettle, sometimes we take a Nomad. The lobsters are split down the center, brushed with garlic herb butter, direct grilled. The clams go into that little shellfish rack that I make. So we grill them until they pop open. It's a charcoal fire enhanced with hardwood, so you get a little smoke flavor. The corn is grilled caveman style. That is, we leave it in the husk, lay it right on the embers. So you char the husk, which smokes the corn. It's fun to eat with your hands. There also has, in New England at least, it has to be linguiça sausage, garlic bread, all cooked on the grill. But you just mentioned something that I learned from my assistant, Nancy Losky, who lived for many, many years in Ohio. And that is right. October is clam bake month in Ohio. And I never heard that before. Because traditionally for us, I'm here in New England, Massachusetts, we do our clam bakes in the summer. But I love the fact that you guys who aren't even on the beach are doing them in the fall, and it's like a thing. It's a cultural thing.
Well,
that's great.
Not a beach per se, but we do have a coastline that butts up against Great Lake Erie, hence the North Coast. Well, that's why we call it the North Coast. Yes, of course.
Do you have, forgive my ignorance, do you have beaches? Beaches on?
I was going to say, we have miles and miles of sandy beaches, believe it or not.
Well, beautiful. So everybody's going to head out there this weekend. Yeah. And this was actually the subject of this week's blog on barbecuebible.com, which was 8 things you can do on a gas grill. One of them was a clam bake. And you and I were talking about this earlier, the sort of the shaming of owning the gas grill. But the stats are that still, for 60% of Americans, gas grill is what the grill means. I own gas grills. I use them on busy weeknights. I am not ashamed to use them. We can all use a little convenience in our life sometime.
Look, I'm glad somebody of your stature is jumping up on this soapbox alongside of me. I believe I've been within this pulpit, especially when I'm getting interviewed by other barbecue podcasts, and I say, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to promote? And I say, if there's only one thing we talk about, I don't care about talking about the show. I don't want to talk about who my favorite guest is or what my favorite awkward moment was. I want to talk about what has become, out of nowhere, a renewed shaming of, if somebody has a gas grill, somehow you are less of a grill master, or you're unable to control the fire. You're not experiencing all this full flavor, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you're not into charcoal. Maybe you don't want to burn sticks in an offset or whatever. There's 50 different things you can operate on from fuel standpoint. But you're absolutely right. Still, by and large, the gas grill is still the most popular. It is wildly convenient. I might use my Weber Genesis Silver Bee 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week sometimes, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And I'm here to say, for anybody that's giving somebody the long look down your nose with your big overstuffed shirt. I mean, get over yourself and just be happy that people are outside cooking, because that's
Really.
what we want to foster, is people getting outside and cooking, right?
Amen. I'm giving you a virtual fist bump here.
All right. So in the beginning of the year, Stephen, we're always talking about what's going to be trending over the course of the year, for instance, 2022, and then you also have predictions that you like to make. And now we're getting ready to enter into Q4 here of 2022, fleeting by, if you can believe it. So I thought it would be fun to use the remainder of the time here to look through your top 5 trends in 2022 and see if you think they hit the mark or still need a little time to get out of the blocks before we quickly run out of time here in 2022. First thing you have mentioned is influential Q. So I guess re-explain what that means, and did we hit the mark?
Yeah, absolutely. That is actually barbecue as explained and celebrated by social media influencers. Derrick Wolf we had on the show, Scott Thomas we had on the show. I think some of the most exciting creative work in barbecue is being done by social media influencers. I mean, I watch these guys and I think, hey, that was Stephen Raichlen 25 years ago. So I think that one definitely right on point.
The next one is, I don't know how you
Susie
say
Bullock, also, by the way, was on the show too.
Yeah, Susie Bullock.
And David also.
So let me task you a little bit here. You say this reminds you of Stephen Raichlen of 25 years ago, and I would say maybe for the people that you mentioned, and one or two of them I might hold into question, but don't you also feel there's a lot of influential people in the live fire industry on social media that are really only in this to do the NyQuil chicken or do something crazy? They're not really necessarily great cooks or passionate about our industry and looking for it to grow. They just see it as a way to gain eyeballs and potentially cash in on that in some way.
Well, I mean, I suppose that's true, but I prefer to focus on people who are really innovative and, ideas that I watch. And, and the format of a 1-minute Instagram, you can learn so much. I mean, I struggle to compress a recipe down to 8 minutes for the TV show. A lot of people have done it in 1 minute, and you can watch it, you can taste it, you can cook it after you watch it. So no, I'm a big fan.
Number 2 was Wagyu everything, or Wagyu everything, depending on how you say it. What do we think about? Did we hit the mark there?
Totally. Everywhere you go, you cannot go to a restaurant without seeing a Wagyu steak on the menu. And now that brings us to number 3, which is closely related, which is A5 is the new prime. And I think that's totally on market. You look at websites like Crowd Cow or Holy Grail. You go to fancy steakhouses. I mean, A5 is the new. It's the new gold standard.
And I'm surprised. A lot of the steakhouses that I've gone to, they have skewed over into not only the Wagyu, as you'd mentioned, but then there's also a little section. Typically, the A5 is sold by the ounce instead of by the steak, like you would see for Wagyu or Prime, which obviously brings it to that elite level of pricing. But I agree. It's shown up in a lot more places than I thought it would this year.
It has, part of that speaks to human nature, where we want, a certain percentage of us want the most exclusive, the most expensive. I mean, there's also, some people would argue whether it's really steak at all. There's nothing beefy about A5. A5 is like, it's like foie gras. It's like pure, it's like butter channeling a steak, or steak channeling butter. It's super rich. There's nothing beefy or sanguine or chewy or any of that about it. But it is an extraordinary experience. If you've never had it before, it's worth trying once. And by the way, when you go to grill an A5 steak, I have found this out, learned this the hard way. Do it on a plancha. Don't do it directly over the fire, because it's sort of like, it'd be sort of like trying to grill gasoline if you grill it directly.
Number 4 on the predictions list was St. Louis barbecue.
Yeah, so that one, we taped the last show in St. Louis. It was wonderful. We had wonderful guests. We ate wonderful food in St. Louis. Loved being there. And they have a very distinctive style of barbecue. I would say what has been most successful is the St. Louis rib, which of course is a spare rib that is cut down so it sort of looks and cooks and eats like a baby back. And that is everywhere. I was just shopping at a farm stand on Martha's Vineyard today, and in the freezer, lo and behold, I saw St. Louis ribs. So I think that bore out. Maybe some of the other specialties are still coming, but it's a regional style of barbecue that is not as well known as it should be.
I would love to see the toasted ravioli get across the nation. That's one of my favorite things that St. Louis is certainly known for.
I did that on a gas grill too, by the way. That was really fun.
Last one for trends was ground meat kebabs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this one maybe seems a little bit more esoteric, but if you think about, turkey, the original shish kebab, it's ground meat molded onto a metal skewer, something like Adana kebab, which is spiced up with hot Aleppo chili peppers, or there's one studded with pistachio nuts, or another one where the ground lamb is interspersed between slices of eggplant. And then, you find this in Central Asia, you find it in India, you find it in Greece, you find it Turkey, throughout the Middle East. It's funny, I was doing an event in Denver last week at a very hip hotel called Halcyon. And what during the cocktail hour, they came out with these little Balkan ground meat kebabs. So I think it's happening. It's maybe not grabbed the headlines quite the way Wagyu or A5 has, but I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen some more. I think maybe, in fact, I need to put it on my list for 2023.
All right, so we have a quarter left, and we'll see how the rest of the year closes out as far as these trends are concerned. We're talking with Stephen Raichlen, barbecuebible.com, his main website, also Planet Barbecue if you want to go try some of that great barbecue he's selling, and then, of course, all the other products that can accompany those as well. And, of course, you can see him right here on the show once a month. It is our pal, Stephen Raichlen. Stephen, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, everybody. Grill on. Thanks.
There he is, Stephen Raichlen right there, barbecuebible.com. And Planet Barbecue. So if you've been thinking about trying some of his mail-order barbecue, now's the time to pull the trigger. And when you get it, let me know what you think of it. Love your feedback on that. Derrick Riches is ready to go. But before we talk to Derrick, we'll let you know about Primo Grills. We love that they're, ceramic cookers. What do we love? They're fuel efficient, of course. We love that they can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that they can get really hot for high temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grill and their game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute the two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. So when you break it down, there's like more than 60 different ways to cook on this Primo cooker. So you're only limited by your imagination. Now, if you're somebody that falls in line with the live fire outdoor status, not only do you love the main cooker, but you love all the accessories that come along with that. And Primo has made the push on accessories here over the last 12 months or so. They now have a pizza grill accessory that you can get for your Primo. They have the Primo Grill rotisserie, the rib rack. You can do up to 8 racks of St. Louis style ribs. You can also put a whole chicken in the middle of that if you want to. They got the half and full drip pans and constantly coming out with the new stuff. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Patented technology? Yes. True two-zone cooking capabilities? Yes. Do they have multiple sizes of ovals, though? Oh, yes, they certainly do. And if you really want a round one, they have one of those as well. But I tell you, get the oval, break the mold, be the trendsetter in the neighborhood, and have the ability to do the two-zone cooking that we're talking about here. Only sold through dealers, so find a dealer near you, primogrill.com, and then check them out in person. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram. I'm ready for a Primo. I know you're ready for a Primo. That's primogrills.com. We're back with Derrick Riches right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
We thank Stephen Raichlen for joining us last segment. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck. Fireboard fully integrated with both. You can find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, and the Fireboard Pro, also the Fireboard Spark. All those products right there getting ready to give you the best predictive experience you can possibly have, and remote thermometering, if that's even a word. Hey, it's the 4th Tuesday of the month, and that means it's time to go to the hotline and welcome one of the most respected barbecue journalists in the biz, a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Fame'er, which we might touch on here towards the end of the segment. We race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Derrick Riches from DerrickRiches.com. Hey, Derrick.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
I'm great, and appreciate you joining the show, as always, for our monthly visit. Last month, Derrick, we talked about the possibility of full-size electric grills being a thing by next grilling season. And I think, by and large, we both agreed, perhaps a bit reluctantly, it will be a thing, no matter what. And now I'm hearing more and more of something called a combo or a hybrid cooker. And we've seen the charcoal/gas combos before, but this time around, we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about pellet/offset cookers. So, what do we know about pellet/offset cookers, and what do you think the potential success of these kind of cookers in the market might be?
Hey, before we jump into that, I do now have the Charbroil Edge electric grill.
Oh. Is it together?
Back. Together?
Yeah.
It showed up 2 weeks ago, and then I took off for a week. So,
so you've only had it for a week.
Yeah, so basically I've used it for a week. So I have been playing around with that a little bit, and it's an electric grill.
Did you have to put it together?
Yeah. I mean, they drop shipped it to me. So
Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com went out of his way to say, from a build experience, this might have been the best dictated how to build grill he's ever seen. Would you agree with that? And you've put together a lot of grills.
Yeah, I mean, the assembly's really good. What actually really, I mean, I've had charbroil grills for 20 years coming in and assembled. And first of all, I'll say packaging was phenomenal. I mean, everything was locked. I mean, you know, I've had some of these show up, and it's like they just wrap cardboard and tape around every single part and threw it in the box and then send it to you. This was like perfectly laid out. The instructions worked perfectly. You can use the built app if you want for it. Went together fine. Yeah, really well thought out. Really well, you know, quite well designed, I would say. It's not huge, but I'm hitting the cooking, you know, the cooking temperature on the grate at nearly 800 degrees max. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, for the person that wants to do basic grilling, has this limited space, cannot use a different type of fuel, this is working, and we've got Napoleon and possibly Weber's in the next 6 to 9 months or so showing up.
How big is the capacity? How many burgers you putting on there, and how many New York strip steaks you putting on there?
Basically for the burger count on this, from me, because it's like people, it's like, oh, you can put 40 burgers on this. It's like, you don't make burgers like I do. I could do 12.
Oh,
so I mean, it's a decent size for electric. It's big.
Yeah.
Most electric grills are simply very, very small. This is big. It works, and it's worked well. And I haven't blown a circuit breaker yet, so that's a plus.
Does it take a long time to get to 800 degrees?
About 15 minutes or so.
Not too bad.
So the preheat on it's not bad. I mean, I've got a Weber Genesis out there that won't break 650.
Yeah, you and me both.
So yeah. So this is hot. It's very much a direct grilling piece of equipment. I mean, I first thing I did is I threw 1.5 inch ribeye on there and let it run with it at maximum temperature. And I mean, it was seared and browned on one side and still pink on the other before I flipped it.
Really?
So there's not a lot of dome heat. There's not a lot of roasting going on. This is straightforward grilling, even with the lid closed. So to me, it's a viable option. So, I mean, for the person that's going to need it. And we'll see how this goes.
All right. Well, I mean, that's good, especially considering who the maker is. I think we've often agreed over the course of our life on this show that Charbroil has great concept, but when the rubber meets the road, sometimes most of the time, it kind of fails to live up to the expectation or the idea. But it sounds like everything's kind of hitting here.
I haven't broken it yet, so that's not bad. I've cooked on it 6 times in the last week, and it's performed fine. And it's it's a very simplified control. It's got an on and off button and a dial, and that's it. So easy to use.
All right, so let's get back to our hybrid combo new version, pellet cooker / offset cooker. Where do we think it's going to fit in the market, and do we think it's going to be a thing as well?
It's a solution for a problem that some people don't think they have, and other people know they have. Is your pellet grill giving you enough smoke? That's
always been the biggest complaint, right?
Right.
I don't think I get enough smoke
flavor. Where's the deep smoky flavor? And my argument is not everyone likes that intensity of smoke.
Yeah.
But
my whole family.
I mean, right. So as far as like the hybrids go, so Pits and Spits has come out with their hybrid price. It's a pellet grill offset, so you can do one or the other. You can theoretically do both at the same time. You can use your pellet grill as the main heat source, and you could put a low smoldering fire down in the in the offset box just to give you that extra boost of smoke. The price range on this is $5,000 to $10,000, so not exactly the every person solution.
But we're looking at, if you don't know Pits and Spits, then immediately throwing out the figures is going to be hard to wrap your head around. So this is a very high-end maker of offset pits. They use a lot of high-grade stainless steel. The lower end of your 5,000 to 10,000, I think, is just carbon steel. And then if you want to trick it out into the all stainless stuff and make it real blingy-lack, then that's where the 10,000. But again, where we could probably argue with some of these other ones, like the Camp Chef that we might talk about, and then Oklahoma Joe, I've seen some drawings and things. Maybe we can start arguing about like how great this is, but from a Pits and Spits standpoint, they make really high-end pellet cookers. And they make really high-end only offsets. They only made offsets until they decided to get into the pellet cooker market, and then all of a sudden 90% of the business transitioned into the pellet cookers, so that tells you where that segment's going. But now you have a really great offset and a really great pellet cooker on a really kick-ass chassis. So if you're somebody that's down for buying the best and only crying once, this is certainly something that would fit that bill.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they rank as one of the highest end, manufacturers in the business, and you can rely on those products for the craftsmanship and the excellent construction and the capabilities. There's no arguing with Pitts and Spitz on this. But it goes back to that question: what are you getting? The convenience of pellet on one hand, and the flavor of offset on the other. So it's like everyone is now making this acknowledgement that pellet grills aren't producing the professional level barbecue that people believed they were, that they were promised,
Flavor wise.
Yeah, right.
So now, how about this? I start my brisket or I start my pork butt on offset mode, which is mode is me pitching sticks and knowing how to actually build and keep a fire. And then after 3 hours, I say, all right, well, I'm going to think that my brisket or pork butt has really gotten the real benefit of throwing the stick smoke. And now I'm going to kick on the pellet cooker and go and watch the football game or go to bed because maybe I'm doing an extremely low and slow cook on a pork butt or a brisket, and away it goes overnight, and I'm not up throwing sticks all night like I would be otherwise if I had a Lang or a Close or a Gator Pit or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you certainly get that option with it. Fire up the offset, let it get going, get your good smoke content in there because, 3 hours in, you've got most of your smoke absorption done anyway. So you've got your flavor, shut down that side, flip it over to pellet and fire it up that direction. And then, go for the set it, forget it idea. So, it does give you that level of versatility.
Mm-hmm.
So that, there's that plus.
So we have the Pitts and Spitz version. There's a Camp Chef Woodwind Pro. I have a interview coming with Cade Huskinson, who I think is in the marketing department over there, and they're very excited. They've teased out some look at what we got, something that involves Susie Bullock from Hey Grill Hey and a couple other fairly large social media influencers talking about how great it was. Who's that other guy that everybody's all on board? Jeremy Yoder, Mad Scientist Barbecue or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I did find it odd that Stephen Raichlen said maybe we should have, did he say Max the Meat Guy? And it was one of those two guys saying, hey, you should task them with cooking chicken and NyQuil and, seeing how it works. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, hey, Stephen's trying to offload some of the people stealing the social media spotlight, trying to do a little Darwinism on there.
Take out the competition.
Yeah, that's right. You do that. Let's see what you put up. But what do you think about a company like a Camp Chef or an Oklahoma Joe that we've seen drawings? There's patents that have been filed. We haven't seen anything physically yet, but I'm sure that's soon to follow. Are these going to be brands that we're going to be able to trust and they will operate as described?
Well, now we're into the more budget category. Although if you look at the first offering of this Woodwind Pro from Camp Chef, I think the starting price is like $1,200 or something. It's not, it's not cheap. It's, we're not looking at the 700. They've taken an interesting solution. Basically, they put a drawer above the fire pit that you can load with chunks of hardwood, slide that in, let the fire pot get that burning, and then you switch a vent to close that off to let it smolder. And then the controller then keeps your temperature on target while that extra combustion is going on to produce that extra level of smoke. So it's a smoke boost sort of solution. And, Camp Chef's been on this, we want you to be able to dial up the smoke content solution for quite a while. It's kind of what they've moved in as their differentiation from Traeger or, Pit Boss. So, they're basically in their marketing, they're coming out and saying, hey, your pellet grills just isn't giving you that smoke flavor you want. Well, we've got your solution. So, here you go. And, on one hand, it's kind of like, are we arguing that, our dials go to 11 and theirs only go to 10. So you want to buy our product because we're giving you something you don't know you don't have yet, sort of solution. With Oklahoma Joe's, the patent, and that's all we have right now is that they filed a patent to put a offset box onto the Oklahoma Joe Rider pellet grill design.
Yep.
So you've got the pellet control on one side and the firebox on the other side. And we'll see what they come up with that, because on one hand, we've now entered into this phase of the business where companies are jumping out to file patents to make sure that they have the patent, because they don't
nobody wants to get
down the
sued,
road.
right?
Right. So yeah, now we have a situation where Pits and Spits is possibly making a grill that violates the patents that have been filed by Oklahoma Joe.
Maybe.
So maybe, who knows? Because, Commerce Department can't make up their mind, and solutions never show up. But
so you have an electric grill. We're talking about the new version of a combo cooker being a pellet cooker and an offset in some form or fashion. What do you think could be the next biggest revelation?
I don't know. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I've never been a huge fan of of combo grills. Whenever someone says combo or hybrid, I always think, you mean it's got twice as many things to go wrong on it?
So you're an optimist.
I've said for years. Yeah, I'm an optimist. I've always said, do not buy that charcoal/gas grill combo, because one of those is going to rust out, fall apart, and you're going to end up with 7 feet of grill, of which you can only use this little teeny portion of.
But those have always looked crappy. Like, I've never looked at one of those.
Yeah.
They're barrel-esque looking, and half of it's this, half of it's that, and it just looks overall like a piece of crap. And if it looks like a piece of crap, then it probably is a piece of crap. But if you had a real fabricator, I would imagine if a Pits and Spits made something like that, you would look at it and your first thought would be like, that thing's going to be a rusty piece of crap in about 12 months, especially if I don't use it or cover it.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. And it was the warranty claims on Brinkman's gas charcoal hybrid grill that drove them into bankruptcy, because they fell apart within a few months and they were all getting returned, and they ended up having to declare bankruptcy to bail out of paying all those bills. From this standpoint, this is workable, but my argument is buy one or the other. You're probably only going to use one or the other. As for what's next, I do think that we're going to see more electric. We're going to see more urban. I mean, we're seeing more and more, you can't have natural gas here, limitations on propane access. If the fuel issues are I think going to be the big driving factor over the next several years. And unfortunately, propane supply could become a major issue in the next few years. So it's not as much as what I see coming as what I see going. At least, and maybe I'm just a pessimist. So,
optimist, you mean?
An optimist.
Last question.
That things will go bad.
That's right. Last question before I let you go, and appreciate the time. If I told you the Traeger is looking at bringing a standalone flat top to the market and it would be gas fired, would you be shocked at that?
No. They need to diversify their portfolio. Part of the reason why their stock can't perform is because investors look at it and go, you make one thing. You make one thing.
But
Weber makes
best.
everything. Okay, we can argue that one for days if you want.
I
best in the what? Best in the price range? Best
in February, I asked Jeremy Andrus if he would ever diversify the portfolio, and he said, no, we're going to stay with what we're good at. He said that the second week in February of this year.
Yeah. And can I tell you something? Something that might shock you, and don't trust everything Jeremy says.
A Barbecue Central Show
Wait.
exclusive news update.
Derrick Riches with breaking news from San Antonio, Texas. What was that, Derrick?
I'm in Austin. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I meant that, by the way.
Yeah. Don't believe everything Jeremy tells you.
Aha! I see. So he was being coy with me.
I honestly, I could see a future by 2026 where you're looking at the Traeger gas grill.
I don't see that.
I wouldn't be surprised, but of course, we'll see who owns the company by then.
Yeah, from a flat top standpoint, outside of whatever fuel it's going to be burning, and if it's weird or not, is it a little bit late to this game?
Yeah, exactly. It's like maybe 5 years ago, this could have been cutting edge, but who doesn't make a flat top grill anymore?
Or an accessory
Traeger
to
and
go
Weber.
on a grill, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and actually Traeger has that. Traeger has a full-size griddle insert for, most of their pellet grills now. So you can do flat top grilling on a Traeger. They have every possible accessory.
And Weber has it with their new accessory lined Genesis
Weber
this year, craft line
accessory system.
Yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah.
Big fan. Yep.
You're a big fan of that.
I saw it in action at the Hartsville Hardware Grill Fest 2022 a couple weeks ago. Mike Lang was putting it through its paces. Very impressive.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's certainly a way of upselling everything.
Sure.
It's a really great way of turning a $900 gas grill into a $1,500 gas grill. But if Traeger comes out with a flat top, I think that would be weird at this point, considering that they want to double down on pellets, but they do need to diversify their portfolio if they're gonna grow.
Next hour, we're going to be coming up with and inducting the 2022 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. You're in the Guest Hall of Fame. You remember what year you won it?
19? 20. 19? Did I get it right?
Yes.
19.
Wow. All right. Good for
I'm
you.
sorry. The plaque is back here somewhere.
No, it's not. The plaque is not there. There's no plaque.
There's no plaque.
Last
Was
year,
I the only one to get the plaque?
Last year started.
Oh yeah, they all got
rings.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't get stuff.
No, well, look, that's what happens when you're in early. When you're as accomplished as you are, it's not about stuff. It's about the accolade.
I am.
Yes.
As accomplished as I am, I'm thinking the first person to be in twice.
Oh, how about that?
There's that.
Once
I'm just saying
through
that
like the first time around, and now the second time around through DerrickRiches.com, book author. Yeah. Secretly married to an excellent author that I didn't even really know about until the first book you released. So yeah, wow.
Not very secret.
Oh, I'm saying that
all,
in a book writing sense. Like I didn't realize there was a whole thing. So, secret in that way. Yeah. Right.
So if the embeddeds have already turned in and they're going to be making their votes, there could be $5 in it for them.
All right. Well, we always encourage bribery here when we're putting people into the Hall of Fame. You can find Derrick Riches over at DerrickRiches.com, and you find him here in this segment, fourth Tuesday of every month. And who knows what kind of fuel-fired cooker we'll be talking about in October, but Derrick Riches will be right here. Derrick, always appreciate the time.
All right, great talking to you, Greg. See you next month.
Derrick Riches right there. Again, DerrickRiches.com is his website. And, potentially a little late. Maybe the Traeger flat top doesn't come out. Maybe they have it, they get it going, but then they just pump the brakes, kind of like the Blackstone race to the IPO. They were going to do it. Whoa! Maybe it'll never happen. Who knows? We're going to wrap the first hour fairly quickly. But first, Green Mountain Grills. Derrick alluded to that if you were paying attention. A choice line and a prime line. Here you go. Go to a dealer. Find one. GreenMountainGrill.com. And then learn all you can about it. And then buy the one that's best for you. That's what we're always telling you to do. Buy the one that's best for you. If you want to save a couple bucks, the choice line is more your speed. If you don't mind spending a couple more bucks because you want some of the bells and whistles, then the prime line is going to be one you want also. It does come with an additional size. You got the peak and the ledge, so you pick which one is right for you. Either line coming with the pizza oven insert option. So buy the pizza oven. Pardon me. Buy the pizza oven insert, and it will go in the Choice or the Prime line. GreenMountainGrill.com. Find a dealer near you, and you will be happy that you did. We're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Thanks again to Derrick Riches for joining us last segment. And he has a full-size electric grill. He's been cooking on it for a week. I think he said he used it 6 times. And by and large, he's impressed. It's not broke. He's got good browning, good searing. So that is encouraging to me, especially now that we know some of the major players in the game will be looking to bring something related to the product line as well, or to the marketplace. I think Weber's brand was going to be the Lumen or the Lumens, but the Edge from Charbroil is winning right now. So if you're in the market, get one and let me know all about it. All right, we are pointed to the second hour. Go ahead and refresh your libations. We're putting in a brand new guest Hall of Fame class at some point next hour, so stay tuned for that. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. Be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are in the second hour. You are watching, you are listening to something called the Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. Only the highest items of importance are covered here week to week. Live, we're doing it live Tuesdays from 9 to 11.
We'll do it live.
And then, if you can't make it live, the show's also being recorded audibly for podcast. First hour will go up here a little bit later this evening. Second hour on Thursdays, and I'll tell you about Friday here in a second. But if you're looking for a video archive, know that Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch automatically archive as soon as the stream is ended here this evening, and then you can go back and watch it as you see fit, as many times as you want. No limit on that. By the way, show originating from
City, USA. Cleveland.
Still to come on the show tonight, the Embedded Correspondents and I are putting in a new class of the Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame, and I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat /BBQ Central Show on Facebook and Twitch, where we say good evening to those of us that are watching on those streaming platforms. Also, there is one on YouTube /RD Rempe, where there is also quite a robust chat going on. And as I am perusing some of the comments here, mostly dealing with show topics this evening, although not always. Somebody had mentioned about a beer being cold earlier during the Stephen Raichlen segment, and some other nonsense a little bit earlier. So I would say right now 80-20, where 80% of the comments have to do with something related to the show, 20% nothing to do with the show at all. And that's the beauty of the chat roll, and that's where it is on YouTube. So if you want to watch it there and take part in that chat roll, that's the place to go. We're also audibly live on Clubhouse as well, so if you'd rather not see any of this and just use Theater of the Mind, that's where you want to go. Download the Clubhouse app, look for me, search me on Clubhouse. I'm not exactly sure how you do that, but you'll find me, and it's the only thing that says Barbecue Central Show live on the date that it's live. I think there's replays there. I don't know how to work it. It's really not something I'm overly excited about, but, I mean, we have it. Johnny Maggs is he's my most loyal Clubhouse member. Thank you, Johnny. But he's probably busy doing nonsense, so that's a way he can fit it in. Puts the ear pods in, listens to the show through Clubhouse. It sounds great. I know that. And then he can do whatever else he's doing in New Hampshire. Who knows? Getting ready to do mail tomorrow, psyching up mentally. Episode 248 is coming up this Friday on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, taking you back to September 15th, 2015, 7 years ago, over 7 years ago, featuring me, as in no guest, just me talking about a story from an event back in the day called the Danville Barbecue Festival. This one, of course, from back in 2015. And I'm not going to ruin it for you, but let's just say this. Firehouse Barbecue, someone named Mary Berry, and a flying brisket. Also, the cops were called, and that's just where I'm going to leave it. Is that not enough for you? Is that not enough to fish you in and entice you to tune in to the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show? If you missed it, Firehouse Barbecue, someone named Mary Berry, her name, a flying brisket, and the cops were called. If you're not hooked to tune in on Friday, I don't know how to get you more jazzed up to make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast feed. Now, I will say this. There have been a number of times on this show where something happens over the end of the week or the weekend, and it is hot. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's sending me links. Everybody's adding me on social media. Did you see this? Did you see that? Everybody's talking about it. And I try to make the interview happen for those types of things for the next show on Tuesday, for that next show. And most of the time, the people that I'm trying to get on the show are too embarrassed to come on and talk about. So for those of you in the future that might be doing some really dumb stuff as it relates to live fire, get over yourself. If I call you, if I send you an email and say, hey, heard you did some dumb stuff, I want you on the show so we can talk about it. Come on the show and do the interview. It'll be your biggest punch up to date, and why not ride the pop a little longer by doing the show? Everybody wins. Remember, if real celebrities can do some of the stupidest shit ever, and they're out of the news churn within a few days, you can certainly come on my show and live it up for 20 more minutes, because once I'm done with it, unless A, you've done something highly illegal, and B, you are facing real-ass jail time, when I'm done with it, it's done with. Get that freak stuff out of here. Let's agree to finish it on my show. Deal? Good. Glad we could agree on that. Now, don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or a segment again that has been lost in the archives, send my pal John Solberg an email. He's the EP of the show, Jon at thebbqcentralshow.com, and he'll do his best to meet your best moments in 10 minutes or less expectation. Upcoming shows in October include visits, filling in for Malcolm Reed because he's going to be at a sporting event, Mark Williams from Swine Life Barbecue, who, by the way, I'm not necessarily finger on the pulse of the competition community as I had been in years past, but I do follow Mark, and he is winning at a pretty incredible rate and winning some really high-level competitions. How about Praise the Lord out there at 17th Street Barbecue? That's a huge event. It's a two-sider, MBN and KCBS turning in within half an hour of each other. Very arduous, and Mark did really well. I believe he won the MBN side and finished reserve on the KCBS side. So incredible contest. We'll get the whole recap from him next week as he fills in for Malcolm Reed, which I love when he does that, when Malcolm can't make his monthly segment. Then, of course, Sam the Cooking Guy is in. Jess Pryles will be in October. Leonard Botello from Truth Barbecue, who we time zoned out last week, will load back in again in October. First-time guest Aaron Huntelman from Go Big or Go Barbecue will join the show in October. Ryan Zabril, the owner of Pits and Spits, the aforementioned Pits and Spits, as I was talking about it with Derrick Riches, joins me. We'll be talking a lot about that hybrid cooker that we mentioned during Derrick's segment. Brian Halasinski. Halasinski? I don't know what his last name is. Halasinski. Let's go with that. He's one of the creators of the Turbo Trusser. This thing is incredibly popular, hitting the market, doing a lot of advertising. Turbo Trusser going to be on Shark Tank is it this coming Saturday? Might be in 2 weeks. I forget. So I'm having Brian on post Shark Tank so we can talk all about it. I saw him at Hartville. He was very tight-lipped about the whole thing, but he was very hippity-hoppity, and I used my incredible detective skills to say, hey, Brian, you're going out of your way to tell everybody to watch Shark Tank, and you can't say anything, which means you probably just got picked up by one of those sharks. Somebody invested in you. Otherwise, would you be going out of your way to say, hey, make sure you tune in, but I can't tell you anything that happened, everybody? I think if you're that excited to tell us to tune in and you can't tell us what happened, somebody picked you up. But was it a Damon or was it Cubes? Was it Mr. Wonderful? Was it Lori Grenier? I'm excited to see who bought into Turbo Trusser. It's really a very good product. It sold out at Hartville Hardware when I was there a couple weeks ago doing the Grill Fest. So product speaks for itself. I'm just wondering which shark bought into it or if my radar is way off. So Ryan Halasinski from Turbo Trusser, many more in October as well. So stay tuned for that. We will be missing a show the fourth Tuesday of next month. I'll be out of town, so we won't be doing that show. Embedded Correspondents, take note. So we'll be out for that. But otherwise, huge shows lined up in October. I got a lot of email on the podcast feed for Google, the Google Podcast app. I think we're going on 3 weeks. I don't know what the fuck is going on with that thing. I have the right feed being served. I've checked everything. I've consulted with Blueberry Podcast, who does my media hosting. It still shows up fine on every other podcast catcher everywhere with the right logo and everything. But for whatever reason, Google Podcast app has kicked my artwork out that I've had on there for the last 6 years or however long it's been. Doug, I forget how long it's been since your guy made me that new logo, but ever since then, I uploaded it immediately, and Google Podcast app is pulling the old logo. I don't understand it. I've unsubscribed, I've resubscribed, I've checked the feeds, I've done all this stuff, but I don't know what's going on. So be patient, for crying out loud. I apologize. Hey, guess what? Week 13, we're starting right now. No more fat. No. David McDowell. Now, as I said last week, we started the gains. So, we're putting on lean muscle. We're looking to add weight back. We've taken the weight off responsibly. Now we're building up. So, over the next, I'm hoping, 8 to 12 weeks, as much time as I took to loss, now we're going to be building on so I can put on weight. Target for me, 185 pounds. That would be about 15 to 16 pounds of muscle to put on. Maybe that's a little bit of an overshoot, but we're going to see what we can do. We've already increased the eating in a good way. We've done now a mix of chicken breast and then dark chicken. We also have added pork. We've also added lean steak. We've added eggs. We've added more times eating throughout the day. And we've made adjustments to add more weights during the workout portion. So everything right, everything responsible, and we will have the results to prove it as I'm tracking each and every week. Go to David Leans That's davidleans.com/BBQ. davidleans.com/BBQ. And join me right now. Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue. Greg's lost so much weight that he looks like a 14-year-old boy. Thank you. You would be happy to know that at 14, I had this kind of stubble as well. Nevertheless, davidleans.com/BBQ. And we are back with the Embedded Correspondents right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Whether you are a beginner or you are a professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. I did want to mention this email before we get to the Embedded Correspondence. Coming in from Fred Bray in Oregon. Greg, we really like your barbecue sauce and have made it several times. My question, how long will it stay in the refrigerator and still be safe to use? Enjoy the show and never miss a podcast. Thanks in advance, Fred Bray. So, Fred, thank you for your listening patronage and fandom and dedication. And the simple answer is this. When I make my homemade barbecue sauce, and by the way, if you sign up for the newsletter, shortly thereafter, you get a thank you email from me that includes a full recipe of Greg's homemade barbecue sauce. Merely a suggestion. Change it up as you want. I think it's pretty good as it sits and hits your email inbox recipe-wise, but you can do whatever you want to it. Obviously, Fred's a fan. I usually make a double batch. I'm usually making it in advance of a fairly large barbecue gathering, so I know at least half of that is going to be used. But then I also want to make sure there's enough saved so I can use it during the course of the week or the next couple weeks. There's a lot of vinegar in it. There's also vinegar in the ketchup. There's really nothing fresh per se. Maybe you make your own honey. I don't know if that necessarily goes bad quickly. I know there's a lot of sugar in there. Natural sugars, of course. There's honey in there. There's some garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder. I mean, that's all dried stuff that I get, McCormick's brand or whatever the hell it is that's cheap. And I don't put beer in there anymore. I just use a cup of water. So to me, it's nothing that's great. You can get, to me, it's like a couple months at least. If you're not running through it in a couple months, maybe you're not as big of a sauce guy as you thought you were. But I would say on a hugely conservative side, a couple months and maybe even longer than that. And like anything else, if you're worried, smell it. If it still smells the same as the last time, it's probably not bad. If it smells funky, toss it. Use your nose as the meter of spoilage. If you don't like it, then ditch it. By the way, Doug is right. No liquid smoke. How dare you? Never put that in my barbecue sauce. That's one thing you're not allowed to decide you want to do is put that devil's urine liquid smoke in it. So, Fred, appreciate the email. Thank you for listening and continue on making that sauce. I'm glad you like it. All right. 4th Tuesday of the month. Second hour. Here they are, the Embedded Correspondents right there. Directly to the side of me on the top is the longest running Embedded Correspondent, Doug Scheiding from Texas, replete with Hall of Fame ring on his finger, as I see right there. Did you see it? Let's see it. You got it on, right? Yes, look at that. So,
yes,
anybody looking to get into the Hall of Fame this year, look at you. You're going to be a little blingy there. And then, of course, directly below me, the Embedded Correspondent from Michigan and the executive producer of the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, John Solberg. John, do you have ring bling too? Or it looks like you're a job site, so you probably left that in the safe, right?
I would be rolled if I was wearing that ring.
Of course you would.
It would take that in a minute. That's like,
yes.
You can't wear anything of value down here.
No, never.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
And then to caddy corner bottom is the Embedded Correspondent from the great city of Utah, Rusty Monson, who, of course, has been a guest on the show, which leaves him open for a nomination and potential inclusion into an upcoming Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. Rusty, how are you this evening?
I'm doing awesome. I'm just I got a graveyard shift tonight, so got to get out of here and go work a graveyard shift tonight. Woo!
What does that mean, a graveyard shift?
That means I go to someone's business who works graveyard shifts, and we serve them lunch at 1 a.m.
Oh dear, like a hospital or something along.
Yeah.
Maybe are you going to Michigan and you're going to be vending to our pal John Solberg?
Hey,
so
that'd be
imagine
cool.
heaven. Look at that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a little travel there. All right, so we're going to be putting in a new class of the Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame for those folks who aren't familiar with exactly how this works. Let me set the rules while you guys pull up your lists, as I have to do that as well here. So here's how it works out. We're all going to take turns going over our list of 5 nominated names. Names that you feel are worthy enough to be included into a Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame. You are free to explain why you pick each person, a little background on why that is, an anecdote, a favorite moment on what put you over the edge with this person, whatever you see fit. No rules. After each person has given their list of respective names, there is a chance that we might have unanimous name or names, meaning all 4 of us have picked the same person or persons. That happens. Those people or person automatically make up 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of the 5 people that will be going into this year's Guest Hall of Fame. Now, the chances of that happening, 0%, 1%, 10%. I know Rusty's probably like greater than 50 because he's always Mr. Positivity, but I would say there's not a great chance that we're going to all agree on the 5 names, but it could be lingering out there. Who knows what's going to happen here in 2022 after the 2 years that we've had here in the live fire grilling industry. Now, after we do all of this stuff and we figure out how many autos, if any, we have, with the remaining spots left, we will then begin the additional Hall of Fame deliberations. What does that mean? We will methodically go around the panel, and each person will pick someone off their list that remains and make a case for that particular person. And then we will go back around the remaining voters. So, for instance, Rusty's making a case. We'll go to Doug. Doug will decide, you know what? Yes, I do agree with that name. And then I get the same decision. John gets the same decision. As long as all 3 of us buy back into Rusty's argument, that person will be included into the Barbecue Hall of Fame, and we will continue to go round and round in that style until we have 5 people making up the 2022 class of the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. Any questions? Any concerns? Are we taking guest nominations from the audience? Hell no. However, if you're watching live and there's some people that you think should be in there, just toss them out. Why not? We're always looking for great ideas. Maybe there's somebody that we overlooked. I mean, who knows? My list is extensive. I started to go back through. I was just typing in years into the search field on the main page and starting to track back through shows. And oh my God, all of a sudden I had an incredible list of names that I completely forgot about, all deserving. So I'm excited to get to it. With remaining time left in this segment or next segment, we have a fresh list of 100% assurity questions. So for those people that like that portion of our segment, we'll get to that as well. Without any further ado, we'll go to the guy wearing the most succulent T-shirt on the dais tonight in gray, and the longest-running embedded correspondent from Texas, Doug Scheiding. Doug, give us your list of 5 and any stories you would like to include with those names.
Okay, my getting close to home on the Rempe family, I nominate Connie Rempe.
Wow, again. You are
I actually
really
think John nominated her last year,
Did
and
you,
I
John?
agreed with him. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been around for, is it going on 3 years or 4 years at this point? Multiple nominations, like the Leanne Whippen of Guest Hall of Fame.
We need to check with the historian and producer, John, but she's been on 6 best ofs. And that may be the highest. That's quite a few.
Well, that's a number. No doubt. All right. So Connie Rempe, number 1 for Doug. First on the list.
Yes.
All right. Next name.
Number 2. And it has no relation to her emailing me today and letting me know my trademarks are coming through. But it's Suzanne Moskowitz.
Really?
She's been on twice, and she explained things in such a way. She had great energy. I paid her. I used her. I'm a customer. I nominate Suzanne Moskowitz. So
all right.
I just really like how the different perspective of barbecue that we need to look at, and that Danielle DVQ has been promoting and professing for a long time as well. I just didn't have an avenue that I thought was reliable, and so I nominate her.
Big fan. Number 3.
Number 3 is a good one. Founder of Shake and Bake, Blues Hog, Gateway Drums, 8 times on the show and 1 no-show, and 1 Memphis in May whole hog cook. So I nominate Tim Shear.
Tim Shear, right?
Tallest man in barbecue.
Tallest man. Right. All right. So we have Connie Rempe, Suzanne Moskowitz, Tim Shear. That leaves 2 more for Doug in no particular order, of course. These are just his 5. What do we have for number 4?
Number 4 is actually someone you nominated last year, and I went back and looked and decided that actually some of the ways that I develop recipes and do things is based on some of his interviews on your show. Jamie Proviance.
Oh, all right. Yes.
CIA trained, Stanford. Yeah. Been in the barbecue industry for 20 some years. So I went back and listened to one of his shows. Yeah.
All right. So that's 4. Rounding out Doug's 5 names of nomination. Who's number 5?
As a longtime listener, and I know this will make John happy, I am going to nominate Kevin Bevington after not nominating him last year, but the previous 2 years. Wow. I still maintain that the platform that he offered at the time that you needed it was like a trampoline effect for the show, and it really helped propel it at that particular time. And he's a hell of a cook.
Yeah. That was Outdoor Cooking Channel, by the way.
Yes.
From platform-wise. All right, so just to quickly recap, Doug's names are Connie Rempe, Suzanne Moskowitz, Tim Shear, Jamie Proviance, Kevin Bevington. I'm not going to say which name, but I can already tell you right now, Doug, we share one name in common right now on lists, and I'm just going to leave it at that to tease. Next up, the embedded correspondent from Michigan, currently at work, and the executive producer of the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, John Solberg. First on the list for nominations, my friend.
First on my list of nominations, I'm happy to announce, is Chris Becker. Why is he not already in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that's right. Chris Becker, of course, owner of Cookin' Pellets.
Cookin' Pellets.
CB, as we call him in the biz. That's a great name.
Number 2 on the list, because a constant, long-running fixture of this show, Connie Rempe.
Oh, look at
Connie
that.
Rempe has always come to the plate when you were in trouble and filled gaps and so on, being a historian of the show.
Yes. Very good.
My
All right,
number
so
3.
that's 2, by the way, for Doug is Connie Rempe. John has Connie Rempe. So 2 there. Chris Becker and Connie Rempe. All right. Number 3.
I understand the hill we're up against on this Connie Rempe thing, but I'm still willing to charge up that hill.
Charge up that hill.
Charge up that hill. My number 3 on the list, whether he's popular today or not popular today, is a fixture of the show from the past. Heath Hall. Heath Hall. Right? Like, come on, that guy was grilling iPads, if you recall back in the day, iPhones. So
yes. On the Weber kettle, yes. The Will It Burn, I think, was their catch segment at that point.
Yeah, and that was like in the virgining days of internet barbecue,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that. Um, my number 4, right, is Joe Beelan, Tippy Canoe.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time with Joe in the past in the
Yes.
in the heydays of
And a great
competition
interview, by the
barbecue.
way. Always upbeat. At that time when he was competing, few were as good as him on the competition circuit. I think there were at least 2 different times when he was really competing and I was interviewing him where he had strung together 4 or 5 wins in a row a couple different times, and a couple of those were like major wins, like the Royal, and I don't know if he won the Jack, but some of them were like really big contests. So Joe was an outstanding competition cook and always showed up for the show, as you had mentioned. A fixture, absolutely.
And my number 5 pick, which is actually my number 1 pick, which
Oh,
I'm gonna die. I am
one in
gonna
your heart.
die on this hill tonight. We are gonna get this done tonight. We are gonna get this done, and I have a very compelling argument.
Oh, all
Donnie Bray. Donnie Bray, Warren County
Bray.
Pork Choppers,
All right.
absolutely needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And when my turn comes back around, I'm going to sell each and every one of you on why that is.
All right, so we'll look for John's sell job on Donnie Bray. He's assuming that, well, I guess since Doug didn't mention him right off the bat, he's not going to be an auto qualifier, which also shows that the name that Doug and I share in common is not going to be an auto qualifier because John did not say his name. Nevertheless, we go to our reigning embedded correspondent from the great city of Utah, Rusty Monson. All right, Rusty, let's have the first name on your list.
So I wanted really badly to go back and dig up the names lost and forgotten, but I gotta be honest with you, Greg, I didn't know we were doing this tonight until very recently.
Get that free stuff out of here.
What's very recently, like 20 minutes ago?
That was yesterday. So I think you posted on it. It was yesterday or today. I can't remember. And
didn't I send out a messenger saying this is the month of Hall of Fame?
I think you mentioned it like it's coming up. I don't know.
What are you working?
However, it all worked out because I did have a name on that list for a while and from last year, and I don't know why I'll get to him in a minute. But I think since this person has, I'm a huge fan of her in general, and I loved when she was on the show, and she's no longer a part of the barbecue world in the way that we want her to, and I don't want her to be forgotten. So I'm going to nominate Emily Detweiler.
Oh, all right. Okay. I didn't see that one coming.
She's awesome, and I don't want her to get lost in the shuffle down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Another one, just because I just listened to the episode, and I forgot how much I like the interviews and listening to it. I'm really into pizza lately, like big time. So I'm going to say Matt Frampton.
Yes. Yeah, like that. The
and
urban slicer, yeah.
Who I really like listening to all the time and had on my show and just really like him. And you mentioned him earlier today. But I think Mark Williams should be on there. I think he'll be a staple of the show coming forward. I think he has been in the past. And I think he's an awesome interview and he's fun. And you learn a lot from him. Great knowledge of barbecue.
Swine Life Barbecue. So right now, Rusty has Emily Detweiler, Matt Frampton, Urban Slicer, and Mark Williams from Swine Life Barbecue. So that means he's got 2 more before I get to my 5. So give me the closing 2 here, Rusty.
And the one I had from a long time ago, just because I'm such a big fan. I listened to the interview a while back for the very first time, and I really liked it. And I wish you could get him on more, but he's far too popular. And he's in the front of the show, but Gary Vee. I think he should be in it. He's every time you listen to it, every time you mouth that, so I think he's kind of a staple. That's actually the name I have on my list for a long time. So that one was more thought out. And then I always have to have a goofy one, right? One that I think that should go in, and I'm being serious about it, but it's a little off the wall. But as a fan of the show back in the day, I nominated your daughter once, but I want to nominate them as a group, the Rempe sisters. I don't know if that's possible. But I always had so much fun listening to them do the Idol shows, and those guys cracked me up a ton. So,
all right,
And
the
they
Rempy
like
Girls as a collective, the Rempy Girls.
And you know what? I don't know about this Connie thing, but you know what? If you just want to change that's fine too. But I'm going to stick with the Rempy Girls.
Well, I don't want to change anything. These are your nominations that you've obviously worked tirelessly on. So if you would rather switch one or the other, I mean, that's certainly up to you.
Yeah, no, it's great. Stick with it.
Stick with the Rempy Girls.
Let's do it.
All right. Very good. Now, I have names myself, and I have gone through the existing names in the Guest Hall of Fame, and here's where we're at in no particular order. I couldn't believe this guy wasn't in it. He's been on the show probably at least 7 times, maybe 8 times, trending all the way back to when the show was originally a podcast before we went live, and then he's also been on live covering various wins, a lot of Memphis in May wins. Anybody ever heard of Chris Lilly from Big Bob Gibson? Not in the Guest Hall of Fame, if you can believe it or not. I went through all of the years, especially 2018, that included a whole bunch of names. That was the year we put in the slew of people, and then obviously very easy to go back and check subsequent years. But Chris Lilly from Big Bob Gibson is not in the Guest Hall of Fame, but I am making a nomination for him this evening. Number 2, also huge winner at Memphis in May when he was really doing it. Also owner of an operator, operator of a really popular barbecue restaurant called the 17th Street Barbecue Restaurant. Somebody who I've interviewed 3 times on the show, the legend Mike Mills. Although posthumously, but Mike Mills, all 3 times were great interviews, and especially the last interview I did with him where I sat live in person at the MBBQA in Fort Worth, Texas, probably going on 4 or 5 years ago at this point. I forget. I saw Doug there, too. That's where he got his shirt. And I sat down with Mike Mills right across from me and got his life story on barbecue and how he got into the whole thing and how it was always a second job. It was never his first job. He never thought he was going to be doing it full time until eventually he figured it out. He was really pretty good at it and decided to transition more into it, but never gave up the original business, which was what? Falsies. Fake teeth. Like, that's what he did. He was a dental guy by trade. And he kept that business, which was a mile or 2 away from 17th Street, open until the day he passed away. Maybe it's still open. I don't know. But Mike Mills is my second nomination. Number 3, going back in time. When this guy was competing, few were as dominant as he was. He was part of a barbecue family, a competition family, of course, hailing from a state that was producing at this time some of the top barbecue competition talent. Scott Nelson from Pigskin Barbecue. His dad was part of Iowa's Screaming. What was his dad, Doug? You remember his dad? Iowa.
Absolutely. It's Kathy and Steve Nilsson.
Yes. What was their team name?
Oh,
it was something Iowa was screaming. I forget.
Girls Gone Wild, Iowa.
Girls Gone Wild, Iowa. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it was Steve. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Scott. I don't remember his team name.
Scott Nelson, number 3 for me. Been on the show a number of times. Huge energy, winner. Never held anything back. Always brought value to the show. So I would like to nominate him. Number 4, and in common with Doug. So none other thing necessary to add to this. Tim Shear, Shake and Bake Barbecue. Longevity of the show. One of the things that sticks with me the most about Tim Shear was when he came on after the passing of Bill Arnold and talked about the relationship he had with him. It was very emotional for him. A couple times he was right on the verge of breaking down, but was able to muscle through it and keep it together. And on the strength of that alone, I think that was good. But he has served this show for many, many years in a great way and very successful in this whole situation as well. So Tim Shear is number 4. Number 5, and I can't believe he's not in either. He's been in many times. He's supported the show for many years. He's founder of a great cooker company, Noah Glanville, Pit Barrel Cooker. Number of great interviews. And the thing with Noah is, if you're not really paying attention to what he's saying, like he is the one that really scooped this whole inventory thing that was going to be happening this year in September of last year when we were talking about, he just kind of brought it up very nonchalantly. We didn't really spend a lot of time on it, but he had mentioned that that's something that you're going to want to be looking at. He thinks that inventory is going to be building as we turn into the year, and the bottom is going to be, he was calling the bottom dropping out before anybody else even knew about it, anybody else even thought about it, which speaks to his level of interview. And so that's Noah Glanville from Pit Barrel Cooker. So that's the 5. What's the good news? Our lists are really good. What's the bad news? No automatic qualifiers.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Which means, boys, we're going to be doing a little selling here this evening, and we're going to do that right after we get back from doing a little piece of business, as we say here in the biz. Bub and Mothers. I think we're finishing out with them here at the end of the month. So many people look at the passing of Labor Day as the end of all things summer. Yet, some of the nicest barbecue weather still to come. Indian summer brings a lot of warm weekends to gather, grill, watch football, and Bub and Mothers can bring the flavor you and your guests deserve. Not only is it 100% natural, it has less salt than many of the bottles that you'll find on most shelves. Less salt means you can add more flavor by adding more rub and not worrying about oversalting your meats and side dishes. More spice, less salt also means these rubs go a lot further, last longer, and are a better overall value. How about some new ideas on what to use? Okay, head on over to bubandmothers.com and click the What's Cooking link. There you'll find recipe ideas for the rubs, including making your own barbecue sauce, wings that bite back, their soon-to-be famous redneck aioli, and their barbecue margarita, just to name a few, right now until they run out. Everyone who orders a 4-pack of their rubs, just $24.95, can get a special t-shirt absolutely free. Just enter the code B4GO. That's B4GO in the promo box at checkout, and tell them what shirt and what size in the note box, and they'll ship it along with you. And remember, every purchase creates an added donation to the veteran charities. As a veteran-owned company, they're proud of their service and continued support of all who wear the uniform. Bub and Mother's Downey's Dinner Dust, made with real maple crystals and fresh roasted espresso, and their Honey and Heat, adding honey crystals and chipotle. Both create flavors that only your taste buds can appreciate. That's bubandmothers.com. That's B-U-B, the letter M, N-U-T-H-A-S.com, bubandmothers.com. Buy the 4-pack, tell them what shirt you want, and the size, B4 and go at checkout. All right, we're back to make arguments and devise a 2022 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame list. Next. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Smithfield. Head on over there right now, smithfield.com, for recipes as well as tips and tricks from well-known live-fire cooks like Darren Worth, Jess Pryles, Charles Cridlin. Mouth-watering flavor, no artificial ingredients. Smithfield Fresh Pork is quite simply some of the finest pork money can buy. It's the trusted choice of top cooks for use at competitions and at home. That's Smithfield.com. And we're rejoined by the embedded correspondents here. So, as I said, we have a great list. Maybe this is my favorite individual number of lists that we've ever had in the 4 years that we've been doing this. Remember, it started in 2018, and here we are in 2022. So, the bad news is we didn't come up with auto qualifiers, which means we got to start from scratch and go 1 to 5, which I think we can do in fairly short order. All these names are pretty great. So we'll start with Rusty. Rusty, pick a name, that you feel most passionate about. And remember, it was Emily Detweiler, Matt Frampton, Mark Williams, Gary Vaynerchuk, and the Rempe girls. So of those 5, pick the one you feel most passionate about and sell us so we can decide if they're in or not.
I think if I had to pick one, it'd be Emily Detweiler, just because she was such a big part of the KCBS, recently, and always a great interview. And she's, been on the show quite often, not in this in the KCBS and beyond. So I think that she deserves to be there. She's super fun to listen to, and she's a great person. And I just don't want to see her get lost in the history of the Barbecue Central show. That's all.
So Rusty is most passionate about Emily Detweiler. Any one of us can kill that in just 1 second. We'll go directly across from Rusty to the embedded correspondent from Michigan, John Solberg. Yay or nay on Emily Detweiler making it into the Guest Hall of Fame this year?
I can get behind that. I think Rusty has a great, compelling argument, and I didn't even consider Emily, and I'm almost embarrassed that I've never considered her in one of these lists. So I'm with Rusty on this one. I think that's a good call.
Oh, all right. And we will go to the longest-running embedded correspondent, Doug Scheiding from Texas. Emily, yes or no?
Wow, that's a tough one. I looked her up 11 times on the show, which is quite a long time.
Now, how many with Smithfield and how many with KCBS? Is it 9-2, 8-3?
I actually did look at that, but it doesn't matter. I mean,
no, but I think
from a guess, but yeah, it's probably 9-2, and Smithfield was a big supporter of the show, and probably a lot, due to a lot of the things that she's did behind the scenes. So I've got to take one off my list then. And I would say that your list is a pretty tough list to compete against. I could get behind Emily Detweiler.
Yeah?
So that puts us in a box. That's oh dear is what you say to that.
All right. So Doug is in, John is in, Rusty is the one that made the sale. And now sorry, Rusty.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Sorry. I don't disagree that someday she'll be in, but I'm not feeling it this year. There's many more qualified names that showed up between all of your lists over Emily Detweiler. No disrespect, but I can't get behind it in 2022. So pick another name, Rusty, and we'll get back to you for you to argue with. And we'll go to John. John, let's have a name, and I think we know which one it's going to be. We'll go from here.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fairly confident in saying that as far as listening to your show over all the years, I'm a highly qualified listener. I have had almost 5 years. We're rolling up on 5 years of digging back through these archives.
Yep.
I will honestly say with all my heart, if I have to pick one segment, which is the best segment that has ever been on the Barbecue Central show in the history of the Barbecue Central show,
wow,
I want you to go back to December 17th of 2013. Donnie Bray came on your show and talked about the Team of the Year race from the back end of that race, from a man who had fought it out, slugged it out, and choked, and came on that show with all of his heart and all of the passion and laid it on the floor like it was so much bigger than barbecue. It was, man versus man. It was man versus, it was that segment. Go back to December 17th, 2013. Even if Donnie doesn't get in this year, go listen to that segment. Keep it in context. I'm emotionally moved by that segment. And because of that short piece of time, Donnie Bray needs a spot in this Hall of Fame.
All right, so John has gone to the mat for Donnie Bray. I remember that interview, by the way, specifically as well. And I believe was that a best of at some point too, John? Or not yet?
Absolutely, it was a best of. And that's where I discovered that segment. Now, I'm almost emotionally moved by it right now. It is that compelling.
Let's slide over to Rusty from Utah. Rusty, yay or nay on, this is going to rhyme, yay or nay on Donnie Bray?
That did rhyme. You know, I trust John's instincts. I've never heard it. I don't know who he is. Surprise, right? So I think but he's so adamant about it. And as like the lead historian of the show, I'm just going to go with it, man. I'm trusting you, John.
Right?
Damn it. I'm trusting you.
Cool. So it's a man you can trust, of course. Doug, yay or nay on Donnie Bray?
Are we voting to vote them in right now, or we're
Yes,
going to
that's
talk
right.
about them all? Okay.
Yep. No, so each one of us are we're picking one that we want to go to the mat for, and we'll vote on those, and then we'll pick the next name if we have to go, all the way back around. So one at a time here. So we're voting Donnie Bray in, or we're not.
I agree with John. He is the historian of the show, and if he feels that they need to be in, Donnie Bray. And I remember respecting him from when he was on from years past. So yes, I'm with it.
All right. So Doug is in. John has made the pitch. Rusty is in, just solely trusting John's passionate sales plea, which shows John's salesmanship, which immediately throws caution over to me being a sales guy because John is an incredible pitchman. Look, I'm the guy that interviewed him. I've interviewed him a number of times. He is an elite competition cook. He always showed up on the show to talk about his biggest wins and his biggest, as John said, chokes. 100%. He's in. Absolutely. Donnie Bray is the first guy or person into the 2022 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame, unquestionably. And let's see. I'm going to tell you on my additional list, I have Donnie Bray in my bullpen of list, which is extensive, by the way. So now I can undo him because he is now in. All right. Let's go to Doug. Give us a name, the most important name on your list that you want to see in the Hall of Fame this year.
I want to see Connie Rempe. And John helped make my sale last year as well as this year. She came forward. A lot of times when you had that open segment, who came on the show that night to kind of fill that open segment, which now we so love because you rant and ramble and bring in up other topics and videos and stuff. But Connie Rempe during the growth of the show and 6 best ofs, that's actually, when I looked, one more than Chris Lilly. So I still maintain she may be in contention. Stuff yet to be shown, but I would like to see Connie Rempe in.
All right, so Doug is voting for Connie Rempe, a.k.a. my mommy. Let's slide below to Rusty Monson from the great city of Utah. Connie Rempe, yay or nay?
She's your mom?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
That was your wife, bro. I don't know what the hell these people are.
Becky is my wife.
Mom, bro. Put your mom in. Put your mom in.
Just like that?
She's your mom. Put your mom in.
Rusty, I'm gonna go out. Rusty, I'm gonna go out on a limb. Last time I did this, it blew up in my face. I don't think you've heard one segment my mom's ever been on.
Not one. Not a single one. But she's your mom.
50% right. 50% wrong. All right. John, are you in for Connie Rempe or out for Connie Rempe now in hindsight?
Connie Rempe has been on my list as long as we have been doing this Guest Hall of Fame, and she will continue to stay on my list forever after you poo-poo her tonight. That's all I'm saying.
Ever. All right, so John is in. Doug has made the case for my mom. John has backed up, and Rusty blindly following the rest of the gents here on the dais this evening, which once again, I am left with bringing the hammer down or allowing it. Wonder where this is going to go. All right. I didn't see that one coming, but Connie Rempe is in for the 2022 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. I think you were all looking for this one.
Greg.
I think you were all looking for this one, right? That's what you were looking for. Yeah. All right. So now we're 2. So Doug has made his case. I shot down Rusty. Now it's my turn. First on the list for me, Chris Lilly. I mean, I don't know what else he's got to do. I can't believe he wasn't put in 2018 as we were going through a semi-recurring guest or even a one-off guest. Absolutely legendary interviews, just like I did the one with Mike Mills at MBBQA. I sat down with Chris Lilly at MBBQA and did a semi-retrospective of his. We didn't dig all the way back through the beginner stuff that every other podcast asked him about, but it was an incredibly insightful and enlightening interview even then, after I had already interviewed a bunch of times. So getting to sit with him in person was absolutely fabulous. And we text from time to time, but when you go back through and listen to his interviews, they were great, and they were always timely and important, and something major was happening. No BS, just great interviews. So I can't see how Chris Lilly hasn't already been in it, but he should be in 2022. So that's my sale. John, yay or nay?
Absolutely, and I can't believe he's not already.
I know. I can't believe it.
I'm embarrassed that we have overlooked it. But of course, as Doug said, 80% of your list is our absolute winners. So you're doing some homework for us in the future.
All right, let's go to Rusty. Chris Lilly, yay or nay?
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That guy's awesome. I love him. We had him on the show, and he spent like 45 minutes talking to me about the restaurant business and stuff, and he took a lot of time that night to help us out. Great dude. Love him. Absolutely.
All right, and then to close it out, I don't want to say anything's a lead pipe lock, but I feel pretty good here. Doug, yay or nay on Chris Lilly? Why does some of me want to see you bring the hammer down? Because I'm a masochist? I don't know, but yay or nay on Chris Lilly?
Actually, he's been on the show 10 times, 5 best ofs, 1 behind Connie. So that, could mean that he.
We're done selling Connie.
Whoever created the list in the beginning, and we didn't put Chris Lilly in, needs to be banned and fired from the show. So that would be 3 of the 4 of us.
Goodbye, everybody.
He's in.
Yeah,
he's in.
All right, Chris Lilly is in. Well, we're making good time here, folks. We have Donnie Bray, we have Connie Rempe, we have Chris Lilly in, which means there are 2 open spots. So we go back to whence it started. Rusty, name and make the sale.
I'm just going to say Gary V, because he's a freaking legend. And sometimes you go to BBQ competitions and there's only 5 teams, but you win. But you don't tell people that. You got that win right now. You have this dude from 2013 that's a legend now. You just put him on there and say, hell yeah, he's on there. You don't have to ask. And in the video, if you watch it, by the way, Greg, you look like you're going to beat me up for my lunch money. But it's a cool interview. Gary V is a badass. And the fact you had him on his show is, like, to me, a kind of like knowing Gary V is kind of cool to me. So I was just like, hell yeah, the guy's a legend. Put him in. All right. Gary Vaynerchuk is Rusty's second nomination that he's going to the mat for. Doug, Gary Vaynerchuk, yes or no? By the way, on the show, not once, but twice. The first one is gone, lost in the archives. I would actually have to pull it down from the internet somewhere, but you hear the second one. The first one was actually done through phone, little less audio quality, but that was the one where you got the sound bites from. The one talking about Lavernius, the one talking about Charbonneau in the second hour bumpers, all that stuff. So he's been on not once, but twice. Probably makes me a little cooler in your eyes, Rusty. Go ahead, Doug. Yes or no on Gary Vaynerchuk?
Was part of the sale that he's like a big superstar now?
Oh, he's a megastar right now.
He's a megastar.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly my point.
Yeah,
if we put him in, it is no different than KCBS putting in Guy Fieri for news and PR, etc. I say no.
Whoa! All right. Well, that kills it right there. Now we go to John. John, give us another name. By the way, Rusty, I was with you 100%. I was going to let Gary Vaynerchuk in there, of course.
Humidity get into his head.
That's all right. No problem. John, a name you're going to the mat for times 2.
Chris Becker, cooking pellets. Great guest every time he's on the show. Nothing to do with his sponsorship of the show, and nothing. Just when you listen, he's entertaining. He's fun. He's upbeat. He's positive. He knows his business.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Becker all day long.
All right, Chris Becker is John's pick. Rusty, yay or nay on Chris Becker?
Man, stop going to me second after these. Like, I don't know these people.
Okay, hold on. Doug, yay or nay on Chris Becker? I missed that, Doug. Again.
Oh, well, yeah, it helps to turn on the microphone.
Yeah.
I'm saving you, Rusty. No.
Oh,
thank you.
Right.
I want to hear.
No for Chris Becker. I'm looking down my list real quick. No, okay. Doug, give me a name, and we go again.
I'm going to go back to Tim Shear, the tallest man in barbecue. He's been involved in barbecue in many different aspects, and now he's carrying on the tradition of the Blues Hog. And what they've been doing at Memphis in May is unheard of, and I think we all agreed that it was one of the greatest coups of all time. And I just kind of like the one no-show too that kind of throws it in there of the karma, and I just think he's been a great part of the show early on, and he continues to be.
John, yay or nay on Tim Shear?
No, absolutely 100% no.
Wow.
Until I roll over into the grave.
Wow, 100% no. All right. Well, I was with you, Doug. I was good on Tim Shear there. Now it comes back to me. By the way, we're getting all kinds of fire here this evening, which I love. Second name for me is going to be Noah Glanville, Pit Barrel Cooker. Many times on the show as a guest, outside of any sponsorship that he does, has been A, insightful, B, brought a certain amount of levity to each, self-deprecating, which I certainly like. His wife filled in one time when he wasn't able to, and she was a delight, although she wouldn't be getting in, but just something to add to the Noah mystique. And, of course, all the business stuff that he does and the charity work, whatnot, all outside of what we're talking about here. But I think Noah Glanville has routinely been a great guest and has been on this show for 10-plus years and maybe even longer than that. So Noah Glanville is my second option. John, yay or nay on Pit Barrel Cookers, Noah Glanville?
Put him in. Send him a ring. He's in.
Doug Scheiding, yay or nay on Noah Glanville?
That was one I hadn't thought of, and I'm surprised we hadn't as well.
Oh.
I would say yes.
All right. Wow. Well, Rusty, it's all on your shoulders. You didn't want to go second. Now you are the make or break.
That's crazy to me because he's like Tim Shear light. You know what I'm saying? Tim Shear is like he's the best, and that's what that is.
I just got to say something here.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to say he's Tim Shear light because he's like special ops, Army, could kill all of us with his pinky without even thinking about it. Not Tim Shear light. And he brought the drum smoker first into the market and has the patent and intellectual property to prove it. And I'm just leaving it there, just so we're all aware of all that information.
And that's the only reason I'm going to say yes.
Because he can kill us all. That's right. So we're not being intimidated. We're not being intimidated here, but we could all die if we don't have Noah Glanville. All right, so we're right there. We have 4. Donnie Bray. We have Connie Rempe. We have Chris Lilly. We now have Noah Glanville. We're going back to Rusty, who was 0 for 2. Give us a third name on that list, Rusty, and please make an impassioned effort.
I'm going to say Mark Williams, just because I think, like I said, he's such a great cook, such a great dude, and every time he's on the show, you always learn something from that guy. He always has something to say, and he's like, I think He's super entertaining, and he brings a lot to everything. And I think he's going to be a big part of barbecue going forward. And if we don't do it now, we're going to do it later. So we might as well do it now because Mark Williams is on the rise, and he will be a no-brainer next year. So let's show how smart we are and put him in now.
Wow, Rusty with a very impressive sales pitch. I'm just trying to figure out which one I want to go to first. Doug, yay or nay on Mark Williams from Swine Life?
That's a tough one. I kind of agree with Rusty from the standpoint of getting ahead, but no, there's at least one or two other people, so I'm saying no.
John, you're saying no too, I would imagine.
I am saying no.
Yeah,
Great pitch, Rusty, but no.
Yeah, best pitch so far, Rusty. You're going to get there. I can feel it. John, next name.
I'm gonna pull one off of Rusty's list.
Oh,
I'm gonna do it right now. I'm calling an audible. And if Rusty would have made this pick just a second ago, I think he'd have a better shot. Matt Frampton, absolutely. Matt Frampton is a super strong player that I have overlooked. So I am going to Rusty's list if I could do that, and I'm saying let's put Matt Frampton in here and close this out strong.
All right. So John, oh God. John is making the pitch for Matt Frampton, calling an audible and intercepting one of Rusty's nominations. Rusty, I would assume you're going to back up John on that nomination?
Just that dude is legit. Hell yeah, I'm down. Totally down.
Douglas, yay or nay on Matt Frampton?
That's a tough one. It was a good pitch, and he's been on 11 times, but I'm going to say no because I have one other person I want to vote for.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was going to go with a no on that one, too. And I love Matt Frampton, and I hope he doesn't listen to this. But I can see him getting in next year. He's also on my bullpen list as well. All right, so Doug, you're next.
I'm going to pick someone off your list.
My list?
That I think deserves. Yes, I'm going to follow in John's footsteps.
All right.
And I am going to pick Mike Mills because I was there at MBBQA and I remember what a kind of an emotional event it was and interview that you did with him. And I actually hadn't met him until that show, the conference there in Fort Worth, and couldn't have been a nicer guy. Everything that he's done for barbecue, I think we would be remiss if we didn't include him and honor him.
Here we go. This could close out the class of 2022 and would be our first posthumous inductee into the Guest Hall of Fame here. Rusty, yay or nay on Mike Mills?
He's literally my barbecue hero, so hell yes.
Oh. John, if it's no, it's no, and don't be ashamed. Yay or nay on Mike Mills?
We should all be ashamed that Mike Mills is not in our Hall of Fame already, and I'm actually embarrassed. So I wish we would have got this done while he was here. So I'm 100% behind it, and again, embarrassed that we haven't done this. So
and I totally agree. It's on my list, so of course I would back that up. Gentlemen, we have done it 100%ly, and it took a little longer than I thought because I thought we'd have at least one auto qualifier, and after hearing Doug's list first, I thought we were on that track. But as it sits here this evening, the class, the Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame 2022 inductees are as follows: Donnie Bray of Warren County Pork Chopper fame, at least on this show. My mom, Connie Rempe, who birthed me, which is obviously her most crowning achievement ever. Number 3, Chris Lilly, Big Bob Gibson's, who has showed up here a number of times, and I think we were all surprised he wasn't in. Number 4, Noah Glanville is in from Pit Barrel Cooker, and rounding out the 5 is the guy known simply as the Legend. And I agree with John. I'm surprised this is, like Chris, somebody that hadn't been in years past. Mike Mills of 17th Street Barbecue fame. So, guys, we've done it! And we're 10 minutes almost over time, so we will save the 100% assurity questions until next month, where they may or may not be as timely, so I might have to refresh them over the course of the month. But nevertheless, we still have time for promotion. So as we turnout here and end the show. Doug, anything coming up that you would like to promote or talk about?
Several, as much to your surprise, several recent appearances on Baseball and Barbecue, and I'm cooking at the Huntington Beach Wine Festival November 12th. So if you're around, DM me on Instagram and let's talk.
Did you hook up with our Dennis Busso pal in Colorado?
There was an electrical outage and he had to work all night. And
oh no!
Yeah, he had to work all Saturday. Yes, I did not. But thank you. I would be remiss. I did meet in person, and I've talked to on the phone many times, email. James Award winner Adrian Miller came out to enjoy my barbecue. Yes.
Nice. All right. Well, that's great. John, anything you are promoting or want to talk about here as we lead out this evening?
As always, check out the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less, coming to your podcast feed this Friday. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can get me at John at the bbqcentralshow.com.
And if I didn't do a good enough promoting it in the top of the second hour, Firehouse Barbecue, someone named Mary Berry, and a flying brisket, and the cops are called, all to be revealed on this week's Best Moments show. Rusty, anything to promote or talk about here before we let you go this evening?
Yeah, you guys can listen to the Pitmasters podcast. We just had Jack Carlisle on. He's a pizza master. That was
a good episode. I listened to the whole thing when I was running the other day.
Yeah, it's a good one. We have Steve Conaway this Thursday talking about steak. He just won the West Coast Championship, so he talks about that. It's going to be a good one.
All right. So to the direct right of mine, if you're looking at the screen, the longest-running embedded correspondent, Doug Scheiding from Texas, the pitmaster of Rogue Cookers. Directly below me is the pitmaster. The embedded correspondent from Michigan. And he's also the executive producer of the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less. Whoop, and then down and caddy to me is none other than the embedded correspondent from the great city of Utah, Rusty Monson from Salt City Barbecue and the corresponding trailer. Gents, always appreciate the time. I thank you humbly for getting through the list of Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Famers. But we've done it again, and next September we will rejoin and go through this process again. I bid you all a fondue. There they are, the embedded correspondents right there. So if you're tuning in late and you're wondering who is in the 2022 Guest Hall of Fame this year, Donnie Bray, Connie Rempe, Chris Lilly, Noah Glanville, and Mike Mills make your 5 inductees into the Guest Hall of Fame this year. Before we leave, I have one more thing to tell you about. What do I love? Cigars, yes, but I also love watches. That's right. Vortic watches I love specifically. Back in the day, watches were made to be worn in the pocket. Seems like nonsense, right? But after World War II, the wristwatch came into vogue, and the pocket watch quickly became an afterthought, finding its way into sock drawers and scrap heaps, and that's a tragedy. Enter Vortic Watch Company, helping bridge the gap between America's storied watch manufacturing past, bringing it to the present day, where pocket watches are now fashioned into high-quality and attractive wristwatches. Here's the coolest part. Each watch that Vortic makes is unique and one of a kind. No one will have the same watch that you have. Vortic, founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Check out VorticWatches.com for more information or to see what's currently available for sale. And the inventory is building now that they're in that new facility, so that's great. Again, that's Vortic, V-O-R-T-I-C, VorticWatches.com. Follow them on their social media. And be ready to buy when you see something you like because they go quick. We're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rempe.
All right, welcome back. We thank the embedded correspondents once more for joining us last segment, and coming up with the 2022 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame class. Donnie Bray, Connie Rempe, Chris Lilly, Noah Glanville, and Mike Mills posthumously. What a list. And again, I was a little surprised that we didn't have any auto qualifiers, but nonsense. We have a huge and strong list. We'll be trying to get all those folks that are still with us on the show here over the next weeks and months to talk about what getting into the Guest Hall of Fame means to them, which I'm sure is life-changing to say the least. All right, let's go ahead and make tracks out of here. All the way back in the first hour, we were talking with Stephen Raichlen, a monthly guest. We talked about the Planet Barbecue stuff. We talked about how to do a clam bake on a grill, and then we talked about his 2022 trends to see what he was hitting on. Surprisingly, he hit on all of them. After Stephen, Derrick Riches made his monthly appearance. We talked about the thoughts and evaluation of an electric grill that he's using. We also talked about the emergence of the new combo grills that are coming out, offset and pellet cooker. And then in the second hour, the Embedded Correspondents joined me as we put in our class of 2022 Guest Hall of Famers. If you missed anything and you're just tuning in now, podcast will be out for the second hour on Thursday, but video archives will happen as soon as the show ends on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, so get it there. Big show planned for you next week, as always. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.